Welcome back to the School Transportation Nation podcast. Always great to be with you, Nation, sharing the latest and greatest in student transportation. I'm Ryan Gray, Editor-in-Chief of School Transportation News Magazine, joined by Senior Editor Taylor Ekbatani. Taylor.
Hello. Hi, Nation. Great to be on another week.
Well, yeah, holding down the fort. Tony Corpin is on a little vacation. He'll be back next week. But as always, every week, this episode is brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing, and by IC Bus. The next generation can change everything. A little bit later, going to be speaking with Suffolk Transportation, this year's NSTA Contractor of the Year, sponsored by School Transportation News. Going to be joined by Tommy Smith, Chief Operating Officer, and Johnny and Joe Corrado. They're the Assistant Vice Presidents and the sons of President and CEO John Corrado. So looking forward to that conversation, getting really in depth, talking about contracting and technology and electric school buses. So that's going to be a great conversation. But first, Taylor, lots of news on stonline.com to talk about.
Yeah, always a lot of news, and especially with back to school time. I know there's a lot of stuff, the bus events ramping up, I guess I should say, either one. But yeah, lots of summer activities coming to a close. And it's hard to believe, honestly, Ryan, that summer is ending. I feel like it just started, especially we're in a heat wave here in California. I don't know how it is in the New Fresno area for you, but
it's hot. But yeah,
it's hard to believe.
It's a dry heat. So I think today we're topping out at 102. But it was yesterday afternoon. I took the kids to the park, and there's a nice one with trees and everything. And I think it was 99 or 100. But what's great is there's kind of a steady wind that's always kind of, so the air's moving, so it's not so bad. Stagnant heat, heat is one thing. We don't have the humidity, at least this summer, so that humidity plus the heat, that's what gets really unbearable. And a lot of our friends out there across the nation, down the Gulf Coast, back east in the Midwest, I know you guys deal with a lot of heat and humidity, so best of luck out there. And right now, Taylor, with the back to school time, the schools that aren't in session, they're ramping up, as you referred to, with a lot of training going on, certifying drivers, in-service routes. I know we had a lot of conversation in Reno, Nevada last month with STN Expo West on routing and kind of setting the stage for that. So that's always a big summer activity. But also too, when we're talking about the heat, a lot of concerns about power outages, and the health of our nation's electric grid is front and center on many people's minds, especially with electric school buses. We have an article up right now from one of our writers, Carol Brzezowski. Taylor, do you want to talk a little bit about what that article has to say?
Yeah, so the article touched on a new report, evaluating U.S. grid reliability and security. And she spoke with a couple industry experts, and it was kind of split, on this report, right? So it kind of came out and said that the grid can only handle so much, and there's going to be this power outages that, districts, especially with electric school buses, kind of need to be aware of. Whereas some people she talked to for the article were kind of like, hey, this is, kind of a scare tactic or a political kind of forced report, whereas like the grid is doing fine. Like if there is a power outage, the odds of it happening during school time, during transporting students, is very low. So I think kind of mitigating a little of the scares that the report kind of put out. But it's definitely something to talk about for transportation directors to be aware of. We're putting a lot on the grid, and there's charge management systems now that can kind of help districts. Okay, when is the best time to charge? Is there a lot of activity on the grid? Because obviously if you're charging at a high peak time, you're going to be paying a more premium price. So a lot of the conversation kind of stemmed around that, but the article focused on the report and industry experts kind of looking at that report and giving their perspective.
Yeah, this report that you mentioned is from the Department of Energy, released July 7th. So fresh off the presses, just a little over a month ago. And not surprisingly, this report noted of a forecasted increase in blackouts that could increase by 100 times by 2030. That's less than 5 years away. And I think it's not surprising to a lot of folks when we talk about the breadth of electric everything, electric vehicles, electric lawnmowers, electric this and that, and everything's getting plugged in the grid. And I think that, there are differing opinions, and I think it's kind of cherry picking some of the information that's out there, because I've seen some reports over the last couple of years that have indicated the grid needs tens of millions, hundreds of millions, even into the billions of dollars in upgrades. And I think this report also notes that it needs additional power sources. So like it gets into the, when we're talking about like nuclear, and that a lot of people that are scared of nuclear because of past tragedies and accidents that have occurred. But from a renewable standpoint, that's one of the best energies out there to power electricity. And you have, wind and solar, obviously, but that can only make up so much. So I think there is still a lot that has to be done with electricity production. And talk about AI. I mean, AI alone, they're talking about some monstrous numbers in terms of the power that's going to be needed for all the AI, and we're just scratching the surface on all of these things. So I think there's some legitimate concerns out there, but as Carol's article noted, if you're looking to charge your school buses, you shouldn't be doing it during the peak demand times. Just like with your home AC, I'm here again in 100-degree heat, and you want to have some good climate control in your house, but you need to be cognizant of the high demand times. And I think my tier is between like 5 and 8 p.m. is when the high demand time. So not that we're not running air conditioning at that point, but we have all the smart controls now that can help you manage it. And to your point, Taylor, there's smart management going on, and smart load management. So there's the management of, actually powering your school bus, but then also managing the load from the utility as well. So just trying to avoid some of those huge costs that I think a lot of school districts and school bus companies early on, at least, saw when they adopted electric school buses and got their first or second electric bill. And we're like, I think the bean counters at the school districts were like, whoa. So that there's a lot there. So that's a great read. If you head over to stonline.com, you can read more about it. Taylor, what else was cracking on the news last week?
There's always so much cracking, Brian. I think to note, Nevada just recently passed a stop-arm camera law and is allowing for enforcement now. So we have an article up talking about that. I believe they are the 26th state. We also have it listed in our safety resources. So if you guys don't know, at the footer of stnonline.com, we have resources, and under safety resources, you can see a map of the U.S. and the different states that have laws authorizing school districts to install video cameras and capture incidents and can ticket people who do so. So definitely check out our resources. Really, really great little tidbit there. I don't know if people know, Ryan, but I just wanted to plug them. But yes, so Nevada's the 26th state.
So what was interesting about that article is, there's the school district, Clark County, one of the largest school districts in the nation, Las Vegas, that's really been behind a lot of this. And on one hand, you have some district leaders who are saying, hey, this is a great thing. Obviously, it's a big issue with legal passing of school buses. We just saw the NASDIP's annual count come out. We talked about that. That's on the stonline.com as well. That was released at NSTA last month. And a little bit of a reduction, but still huge numbers of these incidences occurring nationwide. But so the folks there are saying, okay, well, this is a good thing. We need this, and we're going to get it paid for. And I think there's maybe some revenue also for the school district. But then it's interestingly, the police. So the Clark County School District has their own police force, and it appears that they would be, at least in the Vegas area, be tasked with a lot of that review. And they're saying, well, hold on a second, this is a staffing issue for us. So it's interesting again, kind of like what we were talking about with the grid article. There's kind of two sides to every story.
Well, and I think that's where AI can also help, right? Because it's not manpower. It's not the police having to sit there and watch every single video camera, every single school bus, all the footage. It's AI that can detect, okay, hey, we just had an illegal passing incident. Or even I know there's systems where if a school bus driver notices it, they can press a button and it kind of alerts, okay, let's flag this video. And it kind of eliminates a little bit of that manpower that's being put on police departments. So I think that's where we can see AI flourish as well.
Exactly. AI and then back to the grid. I like how you brought it back. So then we're, taxing the grid even more. But I have some breaking news for you, Taylor.
Okay, drum roll.
TSD Conference coming up in less than 3 months. Frisco, Texas, Dallas area. We're going to be back there. Looking forward to it. We have some new speakers, hot off the presses. Tenured faculty member Linda Bluth.
She's coming.
Is returning
what?
to TSD. Yes, everybody, you heard it here first. So we're busily updating the website. So she's going to be there for a couple sessions. So we're going to be talking about alternative transportation, as well as not a very cheery subject at all, but one that's very important to the industry is one of sexual assaults on school buses. A lot of children on children, or sometimes teenagers on children incidents. No one likes to talk about that stuff, but we know it happens. So she's going to lead some discussion on that as well. So looking forward to having Linda back at the conference. She's looking forward to it. Just spoke to her about it, finalized everything yesterday. So you can look for more information on that. And then also too, adding a general session keynote on Monday, November 10th. So it's going to be right before the second part of our trade show, because of course our trade show starts with our tailgate party on the evening of the 9th. But we're going to have Lisa Navarra. So she is a consultant, a behaviorist from the New York City area. And I know she was out at TSD as an attendee a couple years ago, attending with Suffolk Transportation. So that's one of her many clients out there. But she's got some empirical data. She's a former special education teacher, again, a behavior specialist who has done a lot of work studying school bus drivers and their interactions with kids. So she's going to be on hand out there. So again, you can head over to stnonline.com or tsdconference.com to get more information on the conference and our great speakers.
And speaking of the conference, I believe Ever-Driven is giving out a scholarship to attend. So if you guys want to go to TSD, there's an article online, stnonline.com. We're just going to keep saying our website so you guys know it. But there's an article on, it kind of tells you more about it, but they are, paying your way to TSD. So that is a great opportunity.
That's right. Ever-Driven with its Modern Student Transportation Award. So that's going to be rolling out. So look for that. But we need to get to our guests because, Suffolk Transportation, Tommy, Johnny, and Joe have so much information. Have a great conversation with them. But before we get to that, let's hear a quick message.
We're back from STN Expo West, and what a blast the TransFinder team had meeting everybody. They held several classes, had an amazing response to their ride and drive, showcasing their award-winning driver app, Wayfinder. One of the highlights was the top transportation teams panel discussion. The leaders of the 6 winning teams demonstrated just why their teams won. These were thoughtful leaders who listened to their teams, made changes to show how they cared, and yes, even had to make difficult decisions. As TransFinder's CEO Antonio Civitella said, it is so rewarding to honor these men and women who truly do heroic work every day. You can see how much this recognition means to these teams, and that's what makes it all worth the effort. TransFinder started the Top Transportation Teams program in 2023, and it continues to get bigger and better every year. Learn more by visiting toptransportationteams.com to learn more about how your company can join the program. Also visit transfinder.com.
All right, School Transportation Nation, we have a full house for our interview today. Some of the team from Suffolk Transportation Services, the newly crowned NSTA Contractor of the Year, sponsored by School Transportation News. So I want to welcome Tommy Smith, Chief Operating Officer, and New York School Bus Contractor Association President. Tommy, that was a couple weeks ago, so you're wearing that title as well, and then also Johnny Corrado, Assistant VP, and Joe Corrado, his brother, also Assistant VP. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today and On the Nation.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
So as I'm looking here, it's we're the dog days of summer, Long Island. I see the sun shining. It's a beautiful day to be Suffolk Transportation, huh?
Good point, Ryan.
Yeah.
The probably the most beautiful months on Long Island are August and September, and I don't think I've ever had the ability to enjoy them fully.
Yeah, just for the folks that can't see, Johnny was sporting his new sunburn from the weekend. He was out there enjoying some of that beautiful weather on Long Island. But all joking aside, you guys have a huge operation, one of the, if not the largest contractor in the state, certainly in the New York City or Long Island area, especially. So let's look at your operations a little bit, and then we can get into the history of the company, because there's a great story to be told there. Family-owned business, and then of course the Contractor of the Year award. But you guys are transporting about, or at least for the last school year, 62,000 students. You have 24 customers there on Long Island. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that, and we also do half the fixed route system for public transit and all of the paratransit system here.
Outstanding. So that was our good buddy Johnny Corrado there talking, and 1,800 school buses, so a very big fleet, about 1,500 routes. We'll get into the school prep, the new school year in a minute here, because obviously with New York, you guys go back to school after Labor Day, but that's quite an operation. And the history of the company, I know you guys trace your roots back to as far as 1922, but it's really been since the 50s, right, that the Corrado family has owned and run Suffolk Transportation?
Yeah, well, so as you mentioned before, going all the way back to the early 1900s, both sides of my father, the Tino and the Corrado side, were bus drivers for a company called Green Bus Line. They started out in Queens, and back in the day, school bus operators kind of, for the public transit sector, operated kind of like a ice cream truck. You had your route, there was no overarching company. You bought a bus and then you picked up people and dropped them off where they needed to go. And then the tri-state governors came together and said, you need to organize or we'll municipalize the system, which ended up happening anyway, but it lasted for at least 100 years. And that's how they got involved in the bus business. Then my grandfather joined them in, I want to say, probably around the 50s, working again in Queens over at Varsity, which is the name of their public school sector. And then in the 1970s, my grandfather lumped together some money from his father, some money that he saved up, and then a family friend that was a doctor, to purchase Suffolk Transportation from a guy named Tommy Ahern, right, Tommy? That's the correct name?
Terry Ahern, yeah.
Terry Ahern. And the company had been incorporated since the 50s, but John Corrado Sr., or actually I should say Jr. because I'm the fourth, John Corrado Jr. Bought it in like 1970. I don't want to put a hard date on it, but it was in the 70s. And then he ran it by himself. He started off with one customer, Central Islip, then expanded it out to Bayshore and Brentwood here. And then my father joined in 88, and now we're running 24, like you said, different school districts and the public transit sector as well.
Thanks, Johnny. And so again, both you and your brother Joe's dad, John, he's the current president and CEO. So obviously, you guys grew up in the school bus business. We talk all about yellow in the veins, the yellow blood pulsing. It literally, I mean, it's been there from day one with you guys.
Yeah, grew up going to the company Christmas parties ever since I was probably 12 years old. People have been asking me when am I going to join the company, and sure enough, it eventually happened. I got here 3 years ago. I was a financial advisor in the city for a few years, and then my dad gave me the call in 2022 and hopped on over.
So, Joe, I was going to ask you, your recollections.
Yeah, so I don't have as long of a monologue. I let Johnny take care of the Corrado family history. He's got a better recollection of it than I do. But kind of similar story. I've been around the company since I'm probably 12 years old. I did some time in HR, calling people for interviews, which I'm sure was shocking to hear 12-year-olds calling to let you know you have an interview. But then I did some time in the parts department, worked in the shop a little bit, actually did the call center in the public transit sector for a little bit before going to college and studying finance and real estate. And then kind of similar to my brother, 2 years into a career in Manhattan, Dad said, hey, that the company and the school bus industry in general is evolving at a rapid pace, whether it be electric school buses, which I'm sure we're going to touch on in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Some of the technological advancements that, we're seeing in terms of routing, GPS, student safety. So an exciting time to be in the school bus industry. And I got on the next train out to Long Island. And I'm excited to be here at the company now for just shy of 2 years.
Great. And so I was, thanks for Joe for telling us, some of your jobs. I was going to ask you, Johnny, because, I know that you were put to work too, I'm sure, when you were a kid. I've heard stories from other contractors who grew up in the business. Their parents owned it, and they were sweeping the aisles or whatnot, washing them. What do you remember as your first or some of your jobs that you did for the company?
Yeah. So, I actually got to admit, my brother worked at the company more when he was younger than I did. I did one stint here where I was calling people about their uncashed checks and also calling references.
That's a good story.
The Hound, yes.
Yeah, and similar experience with my brother when I was calling the references, being, 14 years old and saying that my name was John Corrado, who happens to be the president of the company. Everyone thought it was a prank. So it made that job a little bit harder. But for most of my childhood, I actually was working odd jobs outside of the company. I worked for the local town of Islip here for a little bit. I would do surveys at the local airport here to see what improvements the patrons wanted, and it kind of helped my social skills because everyone hated me. A parent at 9 o'clock in the morning is trying to get on their flight to Orlando with their 5 screaming kids looking for Disney World, and I walk up to them and saying, hey, can you answer, 25 different questions? They're like, no. But I didn't come back to the company after I was 14 till, like I said, 2022.
Okay. And Tommy, what was your first job in the school transportation industry? Want to keep it in the family here.
Well, yeah, actually, like similar stories. My family was down the road in the next township, and we had a similar operation that my grandfather started in the 50s as well. And I think, I think I started working there when I was 13, probably breaking various child labor laws as well, doing the worst of the jobs in the shop. But I had a blast, learning how to rebuild transmissions to getting a Freon license and, probably driving vehicles that I probably wasn't permitted to drive until I was 21. But, I had a blast. And then, navigated over to this team working under the Corrado family. And it's been a great 15 years.
It was all those pre-National Labor Relations Board era for the three of you. But so great, backdrop to winning this Contractor of the Year award, one of the highest honors that NSTA bestows each and every year. Can you tell us about the impact already? I mean, I'm sure you shared it with your employees, your customers. Tell us about when you first learned, maybe it was on stage last month up in Boston. But what went through your guys' minds when you heard that Suffolk Transportation was the 2025 Contractor of the Year. We'll go to Tommy. Tommy, you look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, well, great honor. I joined the NSTA board a couple years ago, which was a great honor for myself and the company to be attached to that board. And also, it's been great working with STN, at some of the conferences, especially out west, that really enjoyable. And, we put ourselves in the ring, and we found out, a couple months ago, very exciting within the company. These gentlemen have been opening up the summer refresher classes, and they've been communicating that message out to the groups. And just really important in the industry. We work super hard on what we do every day. We take it extremely seriously, what we do, bringing kids to and from school safely. And, I feel like we never stop, whether we're trying to invest back in the business with technology, safety programs, how can we always do it better? Just the daily grind itself. And these guys, joining the company, they know firsthand, it's nonstop. And I'll say it's fun every day. You got something different on your plate pretty much every day, which is a good part of this business.
Yeah. And Tommy, to a point that you just mentioned too, receiving an award like this, like Tommy's had a great honor, but also gives you, some time to or some context rather to look back on kind of what you've been doing and accomplished as a team. Right. And now more than ever, everybody's really involved in a singular mission, getting people to and from locations safely, specifically children to school. And for, the drivers every single day, can often become, routine. So to come together into a room and say, hey, not only do we recognize you all every day for the work you do, but it's seen on a national scale. And then, it makes the effort that you put into your job every single day, it makes it feel even that much sweeter, especially as we ask more and more of people in our operation, with the new tech coming online, and the changes that are happening in our industry, it's good to show that yes, we're on the forefront of it. And although it can be challenging at times, here's the recognition that we rightfully deserve for the work that we do.
Thanks, Joe. Johnny, your thoughts on what this has meant for your family? I mean, to see this honoring your family's work.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely special experience. As we mentioned before, long history in the bus industry. I believe this is our first Contractor of the Year award. And my father's spent the last 36 years of his life here, dedicating to making sure that it's as safely and efficient as possible. Spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this place where it is. But we really see it as a team effort, So it's not just about us here. You don't get Contractor of the Year award because you have a great president or a great executive team. You get the Contractor of the Year award because everyone came together with a singular vision and executed properly. There's not an easy job here at the company, and I think everyone feels very appreciative to be recognized.
So with back to school, and we mentioned it earlier, getting ready. How many drivers do you have for these 1,500 routes? And I'm going to imagine you have far many more than that, a total number. But, right now I'm sure you guys are going through in-service training, training, new CDL applicants. What are the major issues you guys are working through right now as you prep for the new school year?
Well, from my seat, just the operational team handling safety and training. We've got a great system in place. A couple of years ago, we got the third-party road testing established with New York DMV, which has been a game changer for us. And we're able to attract, a good amount of applications. We've seen that uptick this season, which has been great for our organization. And we're, staffing 3,000 employees, we also have to keep an eye on our public transit sector, which is big, and also this school program as well. So getting the applications in, properly screening them, being able to road test on site has been a very efficient process for us. And, we're on target to be at a better level the next year, which is amazing. It's just been an uphill battle since COVID when no one wants to talk about that, but it's the truth. We've been climbing out of a deep hole And this year feels really good. We're getting just more people looking for work, and the applications have been flowing in at a good pace. And we've got a proper team staff to be able to screen them and get them through the process. And, we're always looking for obviously the best applicants out there, and we feel our wage and benefit packages is pulling them in our direction. So we're optimistic, and we feel also the growth for the school year is probably balanced out. I think last year we had a lot of programs come back and a lot of children back, out of the parents' car, back on the bus, which is great. So we had a little bit of a bump that was a little unexpected with some growth. And we feel this year we're going to be pretty even with that, controlled bumps, I'll say. We know what we're expecting this year.
It's interesting to me. You have obviously a very large school bus operation, and you have an extremely large transit running, most, if not all of the transit there in Suffolk County. And there's an obvious connection there, right? Because you're transporting so many of the kiddos, 18,000 or whatever number that was a day, and then at a certain point, all these kids are transitioning over to the transit bus. So they remain your customers, right? The districts offer the free passes, and then they're taking your transit buses to and from school. Johnny, I was kind of curious your thoughts on that continuum of service for the children.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting perspective. Actually, kind of a new perspective. I didn't really think of it like that. I sometimes we tend to think of them as two separate operations, but they really are heavily tied together. It's almost seen as a progression through your career to start off at van and then go to large and then go over the transit division. But we treat the ridership over there in transit with as much care as we do with the riders over here in the school bus system. We have people working around the clock, especially now that they expanded the transit hours as well. We just went through a reimagined program in the county system where they increased the bus frequency on the routes. They went from hour-long intervals to 30-minute intervals. And then they also expanded the hours of service going later into the night and throughout the holidays. So again, more pressure on the team, but pressure makes diamonds. And it's a very special opportunity that we get to take care of the citizens of Suffolk County from pre-K all the way up to their careers.
Just a reminder there too that we're in New York, near New York City, with the horns honking. If you guys caught that on the nation, but perfect timing. I wanted to ask as well, students with disabilities that provide service, and I know there's probably not some hard, fast numbers right now because you guys are getting ready for the school year. You're probably still waiting for a lot of the numbers in from the districts. But can you give an idea from the 24-25 school year, what was the breadth of the service for students with disabilities that have transportation in their IEPs that you were providing for your customers? Tommy, do you want to take that?
Yeah, Ryan, just obviously a big uptick over the couple of years in special needs transportation for sure. Some of the challenges we see is just to best prepare our driver assistants and drivers, obviously wanting their communication and teamwork on board. And, it's some of the programs are challenging. What we have done to be a little more detailed with our training, we obviously have what we do in-house with following SED regulations, et cetera. We also have a consultant that'll work together. Maybe we have a special situation on board that we might have to zero in on how to train the driver and the driver assistant. So they'll come into the office, work with the consultant, go through strategies on how to best handle the situations that come our way. Obviously the group training that we do in the beginning we call it like a special needs training, where it's a dedicated class for these specific drivers, but it's a bigger class. And this consultant works with our team, just basically zero in. They do come up, and if you're not on it, it can brew. We want to make sure we're supporting our drivers and driver assistants the best way we can with detailed and specific support.
Great. And that consultant, I believe, I can break some news right now. Lisa Navarra She's actually going to be speaking at TSD Conference in a few months. So you can head over to the website and learn more about her. It's got some great empirical data and working with the drivers and your drivers and other drivers across the state. I'm curious, with so much of the movement that we've been seeing in the student transportation industry, not away from the yellow school bus, but embracing more and more other vans and other vehicles, alternative transportation, quote unquote. We're seeing a lot of the contractors now providing a lot of that service. Curious, what are you guys seeing, doing? Are there concerns in terms of embracing this new model? We just at the National Congress of School Transportation, for the first time, there was a writing committee dedicated to non-yellow school bus. That was a historic occurrence. Curious, how is Suffolk looking at other vehicles to provide service, whether it be for students with transportation, students who are experiencing homelessness, or maybe even some other students?
I can maybe jump in on this.
Okay, Joe.
And then let Tommy and Johnny get more granular. But, we're always back to like the most important thing, which is safety, right? So you have to have a licensed driver behind the wheel who, drug and alcohol tested, someone who is going to be responsible behind the wheel and taking care of the children, right? The same way that they would on a large yellow school bus, right? So got to have the right person behind the wheel. And then also you want a safe piece of equipment. Listen, the nice thing about the large school bus, extremely durable vehicle. And out here on Long Island, we have some pretty dangerous roads. There are statistics that even rank us to be some of the most dangerous roads in the nation. A lot of reckless drivers out there. And we've seen some incidents where cars will crash into a bus and, the bus looks like nothing even happened, right? It's a very safe vehicle, as well as our minivans that we also run, whether they be, 16 to 28 passenger vans, extremely safe vehicles, have a little more weight on them. But those are the two things, we always feel like we want to be on the forefront of transportation. And again, being so connected to public transit as well, seeing the evolution there, maybe crossover in technology in terms of how we could be smarter, right? AI routing, app driven, and we're open to all those options and exploring them actively while just still keeping in mind, again, most important thing is having the right person behind the wheel and in a safe piece of equipment for the children to be transported in.
Gotcha. Tommy, as you're also the president of the New York School Bus Contractors Association. And, something that we've seen a lot of over the last several years is states passing laws or at least introducing legislation around alternative transportation. I'm just curious, is NYSBCA involved any? Is there anything going on at the state, or are legislators looking at trying to develop more, I don't want to say strict guidelines, but guidelines as opposed to just, not having much at all?
Yeah, Ryan, definitely. Even a few years back when maybe Uber and Lyft were a little hotter, we're trying to attack this market. The NYSBCA was involved with making sure that the alternate players coming into, especially the New York region, were just adhering to SED regulations, like Joseph said, with drug and alcohol compliance, which is, we're making sure that we're holding our yellow drivers up to the most strict standards. We want to make sure everyone's playing on the same playing field. So we've kept an eye on that through our association, just making sure if there's any percolation with different players coming in, that's just SEDs on it, and just want to make sure that we're giving students the safest ride possible. A great positive, our organization, which we feel so strongly that we're able to do a great job for the districts we serve. We have an amazing van network within Suffolk County and touching it to a little bit of Nassau County as well. We're able to provide over $6 million worth of shared services to our clients. And we work hard with utilizing great software, being able to put together rideshare platforms and give back shared credits to our district for, allowing the students to ride with a neighboring district. And what's nice in Nassau and Suffolk County, we've got, it's different than upstate New York. We've got, quicker rides. We're able to get kids to and from school in an efficient manner. But that financial component really keeps them working, with our organization, because we're looking to provide those efficient rides to our clients. Also, we have a fleet of Tahoes, which they're approved by DOT. And obviously, we've got drivers that are DMV and SED certified to ride them. And we provide the clients that use them a little bit more of a comfortable ride for the longer trips that may usually be a single ride, something of that nature, or just something where we can do, one or two out to the locations that are further along, but it's just a discounted rate with a certified vehicle that just provides a good solution as well.
Great. And by the way, SED stands for State Education Department. So the statewide Department of Education there in New York.
Great thoughts, guys. Let's take a quick break. Today's tech tip is brought to you by IC Bus. The next generation can change everything. Looking for ways to improve your on-time performance and reduce operating costs? All IC Bus CE Series school buses come standard with factory-installed telematics devices, including a 5-year connectivity subscription. Customers gain access to on-command connection, an industry-leading remote diagnostic solution, providing data that is visible and easy to understand and actionable. With OCC, your district will have visibility to vehicle health and performance data at your fingertips, including EV-specific information like state of charge and estimated range. Learn more about standard capabilities of their connected vehicles at icbus.com. That's icbus.com.
Joe, I want to come back to technology because you had mentioned it a couple times, and we've seen that's another trend that obviously has been, on fire across the industry. Talk a little bit more, as since part of your job is overseeing IT and helping to lead that team, the collaboration that's necessary nowadays, where transportation always used to be kind of on an island, and now more so than ever. Not only does transportation need to be working with, of course, the school district and with the different departments, but with IT. How do you see the evolution of IT, impacting Suffolk and the industry? What are there recent developments that you found have been, extremely successful? And are there, what's the pathway looking forward to try to even make Suffolk even better?
Yeah, well, listen, I think, most people would agree with this statement, but, if you're going to operate a business, a successful business in this day and age, you can't avoid technology, right? It's just allowing our jobs to be, better, more efficient, provide better service. And also, I think there's a level of transparency that is expected by the public in this day and age, right? So people will say, well, why can't, I check and see statuses of where the bus is on my phone? My kid is getting picked up every morning. I shouldn't have to guess, right? We have GPS. We should know where the bus is coming. And that's technology that we've now had for the last couple of years, specifically in our large bus routes. A parent app, parents can log on and see an ETA of when their school bus is planned to arrive and when it's planned to come home in the afternoon. And that's been great. Another touch point with the community, more transparency towards the parents. I think there's also an ease of mind piece to that application. Again, it's when you're so in the day to day, you got to pull yourself out and remember, you're still transporting someone's child, right? So giving the parent the ability to have more transparency on the bus and when it's coming and when their kid's coming home, extremely important to us. And then again, from a logistical standpoint, route operations and creating routes that are efficient, cost effective to the school district, extremely important to us. We use routing software that has optimization tools to help us maybe reduce the number of routes that are needed for a district, find combinations that again could bring cost sharing. It helps us stay ahead of the curve. And like I said before, it's just so important to, be constantly evolving. And I really see technology playing a huge role in transportation. At the end of the day, you're going to need the people in your operation who understand the streets, have them memorized. We have a couple, in our operation who you talk to them, you're like, oh my God, you literally have every street of Long Island burned into your brain. But again, I think there's expectations to use new technology, and I think we'll be better off for it. So I don't think it's going anywhere. It improves, like I said, the efficiency, but also the safety aspect of what we do, right? I'm sure we all read the same magazines, the new cameras, sensors that are coming out constantly. We know that, even I think New York City taxi cabs are putting new AI technology into their taxis so that people feel safe in their ride, even to and from, dinner to their apartments. So the world is moving in one direction, and, we don't see ourselves as an exception. We're going to be a part of it, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Johnny, in terms of that technology from the employee standpoint as well, I mean, there's that learning curve, and you might have some employees that are a little bit more reticent to utilize some of this stuff. But then once they do, is it helping them in their job? I mean, your brother Joe was talking about GPS, and there's turn-by-turn navigation now and routing. Is that something that is also you're seeing beneficial? And do your drivers help drive where you as a company want to explore more when it comes to technology?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a learning curve with every new piece of technology. I'm still trying to figure out iMessage, but we've gone through a lot of transition here over the last few years. We implemented a new routing system about 2 years ago now that has machine learning to help route efficiency. Big learning curve with that, but like everything, it's a tool, and it's only as good as the user. And I'm happy to say that our team has really picked that up and has combined their institutional knowledge of, like my brother said, knowing every street here with connecting the routes between different districts to open up sharing opportunities. And then as far as safety features in the bus, we've improved the camera systems. We're implementing a new one over the summer here that is using AI technology to help drivers coach with their behavior. That we're trying to be very sensitive about. My father always says that our greatest safety tool is that our drivers care. And we want to make sure that all the technology that we're implementing in the bus to assist the driver throughout their route isn't invasive. Aside from just cameras, we've also implemented child check technology that reminds the driver to just pass through the bus to make sure that they're not leaving a sleeping child on the vehicle after they leave. But like I said, everything has a little bit of a learning curve, a little bit of a transition, but our drivers here and our employees here are looking to make the operation run as efficiently and as safely as possible. And I'm happy to say that in the long run, every piece of technology has ultimately been welcomed with open arms here.
Right. And it would be remiss if I did not address the elephant in the room: electric school buses. And I know, Tommy, you mentioned earlier your relationship with STN. You've been good friends. Suffolk has been. Suffolk won a 2024 Green Bus Fleet Award, largely for your adoption of electric school bus, one of the fastest, biggest adopters in New York State at the time. And I think that you guys have only been moving forward. Can you update us on, how many electric school buses do you have amid this state mandate that 2027, or if school districts show hardship, the state budget extended the window to 2029. Tell us what your electric school bus fleet looks like, numbers, experience so far.
So currently we're running 11 full-size school buses right in our local 3 districts, basically that surround our headquarters. And so I'd say that we are excited about the technology. We think this is going to be a nice solution to just make the vehicle itself a simpler solution for, maintenance drivers, obviously clean burn, remove us from the dependency on fossil fuels. So we're excited about that. We're also excited about the technology developing at more of a rapid pace than it is now. I think when we took this project on, we started through some hybrid battery concepts that we're encouraging. I think hybrid would be a very nice advancement to see before they jump full electric. We've got some of those vehicles within our transit fleet, and they've been a very successful part of the transit program. So although we have the 11 electrics, it's been a little bit of a bump and grind. We knew it was going to be a learning curve, a little college education. So that's been helpful. We're learning as we go, and we're just looking to understand what's going on within our operation, communicate to our customers. And, we have seen advancements over the models that we've had. We had a Gen 1, Gen 2 vehicle looking at 4 additional units coming online. It'll be Gen 3 with a different battery makeup. And of course, the manufacturers are growing as well. So it's getting better. I think the timelines with the current technology will be a little challenging. So we've been working, through our association and our organization as well, working with NYSERDA, which is the state group, communicating to the governor's office. And we're, folks from upstate, Westchester, the city, and of course us on Long Island, we're being able to communicate the real deal, what's going on in the world of electric, whether it's infrastructure challenges, modifications to taxation on property with adding electric, a lot of things that people don't think about. And then in general, just the operation or reliability of the vehicle, which is obviously critical. We do it, all of us at NYSPCA, and of course our organization, we pride ourselves in being super reliable with getting these children to and from school, whether it's winter, fall, summer. And we just want to make sure that we're putting out, a solution or the new equipment that's going to keep us where we are currently. So we're in it and we keep moving it forward. There's a lot of state money out there, so we're going to continue to move forward. And we're just hopeful that technology moves and we get the governor's office all the information that they can and be able to digest that as best they can to help us move the industry forward in a manner that works for the children and parents out there.
And speaking of that funding, Governor Hochul, Kathy Hochul, I think I'm saying her name right, just announced another $200 million, part of that $4.2 billion Environmental Bond Act. And there's, a lot of that money was set aside for the electric school bus mandate. So yeah, there is money out there, but it's competitive, and there's a lot of school buses, 50,000 or so to flip over eventually to electric. And I believe it's 2035 when all the fleets are supposed to be air quotes electric. We'll see how that works out. But Joe, real quickly, I wanted to go to you in terms of overlooking the finances, right, of the company, and penciling that out where you're hoping to piggyback all these grants, and with clean school bus program, it's kind of still out there, but we don't have a lot of clarity on exactly what's going to happen over these final 2 years. Talk real briefly about, from a finance standpoint and, obviously balancing the needs of your school districts, because the school district customers are ultimately going to be the ones who say, yes, in New York State, they're going to be held their feet to the fire just like you guys. But, it's a tightrope you got to walk.
Yeah. So you kind of painted the perfect picture. It's a song and dance, right? And the uncertainty with what's going to happen with federal dollars regarding clean energy did not make the job any easier. Obviously, we're going to keep applying for the money as long as it's there. And again, we're lucky enough to work with a lot of different individuals, school districts with differing maybe agendas, or they want to move quicker than others. And it's allowed us to essentially move our operation forward while still doing right by all of our partners. So, we're going to keep making the advancements we need to make sure that we're ready and that we don't get stuck in a position that, let's just say, the waivers don't go through and okay, well, now what? So we're planning effectively to put ourselves in a competitive position. But like you said, right now the districts really just have a lot of questions regarding their budgets. The electric school bus, obviously a more expensive piece of equipment. A lot of studies out there will, say that the price is going to come down and there'll be some sort of price parity with diesel, which I do believe to be true. It's just kind of a question of when. And I think as there's more volume, more output of electric vehicles, we'll see that price come down. And kind of some of the blessings of the mandates is that it's getting people to purchase the equipment. And we're seeing advancements in the technology. Like Tommy just said, I mean, we started back in 2014. My dad, with a battery engineer he met in Stony Brook University, we started building our own hybrid electric school buses in our shops here at Suffolk Transportation. So we've wanted this for a very long time. And Tommy also mentioned the success of our hybrid vehicles out in transit. These are like the best pieces of our fleet now. Very low wear and tear on brakes. The drivers love them. They're more quiet, obviously less emissions for the environment. So we know that this is heading in the right direction. And when it comes to funding, we're going to keep throwing our name in the hat and try to plan for a future where maybe the price isn't as high as it is right now, become a more feasible option for the community. Because at the end of the day, listen, we're government contractors, it's taxpayer dollars, and we have to be financially responsible as well. We owe that to our communities. So, like you said, the ultimate tightrope walk, and I think out of anybody, we're doing it the best. We got really, really smart people on our team, and obviously people involved heavily politically, like Tommy being the president of the state association. And we have great relationships with everybody up in Albany. So I'm confident that, we're going to get to the other side of this, and I'll be very happy that we were a strong partnership and we provided, safe and clean transportation for students across New York.
Interesting in what you say about hybrids, and obviously the industry over a decade ago tried to go hybrid, or they tested it out and it didn't pencil out at the time. I think we have to do a whole nother podcast just on why hybrid doesn't make sense for school bus. I know some experts, so stay tuned, nation. Real quickly, Johnny, in terms of the electric school buses too, workforce development, you have your drivers who the benefit of these vehicles are a lot of how you operate them, right? They operate differently than an internal combustion engine, your diesel or even your propane or gasoline, but also, getting your mechanics and your technicians to be able to work on these school buses. What's been the reception from your employees when it comes to electric school buses?
Yeah, so a little bit of a learning curve there as well. A lot of our drivers had to overcome something that we call range anxiety, where the battery life of the vehicle starts to run low towards the end of the route. And normally, when you have a bus running on fuel, the fuel tank's not going to be running low towards the end of your route. But teaching our drivers to, one, utilize the regen power of the brake to fuel the battery as it's going along the route, and then feeling comfortable with that gauge getting closer to zero towards the end of your route, so you can charge it up, get it ready for the second half of the day. In terms of the shop on how they operate on it, we've been talking with our manufacturers of getting them higher levels of training to operate on the vehicle in terms of technology. With mechanics of how the bus operates, it's actually far more simple than a combustion engine vehicle. So when we feel comfortable to make the full jump over to electrification, planning on seeing a lot of savings in terms of parts. Where they kind of talked a little bit about how the hybrids in our trans division run really well. The brakes seem to last forever because of that regen technology. You would only need to really use a brake in terms of an emergency. But simpler vehicle to work on mechanically, more complicated to work on from a technology standpoint. But we really train our mechanics very well, and they've been working really closely with the manufacturer to kind of take on that knowledge and work on it as much in-house as possible.
Okay. So with 11 out of 1,800 school buses being electric, I would say probably most of them are diesel and gasoline.
Yes.
The rest of the fleet, sound about right?
Yeah, most of it's diesel and gasoline. We don't use any propane. And then the batteries are lithium, but with these Gen 3s that we have coming in soon, they're going to be moving over to magnesium phosphate, which is a gel layer in the battery. And hopefully that solves a lot of the battery problems that we've been experiencing with the lithium. Right now on Long Island, we kind of have the worst of every world, where we live very close to salt water, which can be degenerative to the battery. It's very cold in the winter, very hot in the summer, and the lithium liquid gel has to be at 70 degrees to run properly. So to accommodate for that, there's a special fabric that blankets the batteries, and then a heating and cooling system that's actually as large as a regular combustion engine that sits in the front of the vehicle. But with magnesium phosphate being gel, hopefully it's not as temperature sensitive as the lithium is, and again, making the bus even more simple mechanically, downsizing that heating and cooling system at the front of the bus.
Outstanding. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us a sneak peek under the hood, if you will, of Suffolk Transportation. And congratulations on your well-deserved Contractor of the Year award. Joe and Johnny, please pass along congratulations as well to your dad and the rest of the executive team. Tommy, please you do the same. And appreciate it. And thanks so much for joining us on The Nation.
Will do. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. It was great talking with you.
Take care.
All right. This great conversation again with Tommy Smith and Johnny and Joe Corrado of Suffolk Transportation. Again, congratulations to them for winning the NSTA 2025 Contractor of the Year Award. And also thanks to our friends and sponsors, TransFinder and IC Bus. Visit stonline.com for all the news and analysis on the school transportation industry. And again, TSD Conference is open. Just shared some breaking news. So you guys head over, register online, tsdconference.com. And for the School Transportation Nation podcast, here with you every week. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get each new episode of The Nation directly on your phone or your tablet or your computer, wherever you may be listening to podcasts. Here, people are listening to it in their cars, Taylor, driving into work. They're with us every week. So, Nation, thanks so much for joining us. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week.